Hello class, I'm glad you are back for another episode of the Mountain Geometry. So today we're talking about special right triangles as in our two that we discussed in class, 45, 45, 90 triangle and 30, 60, 90 triangle. So we're going to go over examples of both and hopefully this will help you to understand this concept better. All right, so again, 45, 45, 90. As you can see, this relates to the angles that you are given. So if you know that one is 45, then guess what? The other also must be 45 degrees, okay? So what does this say about the sides? Okay, so if you know that two angles are congruent, that means their opposite sides must be congruent as well. So whatever these sides are, I can call them X. They will always be the same. The legs of this particular special right triangle will always be the same. Now there is also a special relationship between the legs of a 45, 45, 90 triangle and the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is always one of the legs, the length of a leg, times the square root of 2. Again, all you have to do is look at the length of the leg, multiply by radical 2, and that is the length of the hypotenuse. So what does this look like practically? If I were to plug in any value for X, let's just call that 5. So if I know that X is equal to 5, what will my hypotenuse be? Plug in X to get your answer. If you said 5 radical 2, you are correct. My answer, I'm just replacing the X with 5, is 5 radical 2. Real simple. Now if I wanted to go from the hypotenuse to a leg, I could do that also. On your paper, as you are taking notes, don't do as I do. Make sure that you are recopying down the problem separately. But to save time and space, I'm going to use this triangle again. You can pause it now so that you can prepare yourself for the next example. All right, so we're going to keep going. Now let's say you are given the hypotenuse. So let's say that the hypotenuse is 10. I believe you saw this example the other day and you're due now. So if the hypotenuse is 10, we already have the formula for it. We know that we get a leg times radical 2 to get the hypotenuse. So all I need to do in order to find the leg is to set it equal to that formula. 10 is equal to a leg times radical 2. Now how do I get X by itself? I divide by radical 2. These cancel. X is equal to 10 over radical 2. Technically, this is your answer. But as we know, we need to make sure that we rationalize the denominator. Don't leave a radical in the denominator. You will always see on test quizzes, standardized tests like I-STEP and ACT, SAT. They never leave the answer this way. You need to rationalize. So how do we rationalize the denominator? You're going to take the denominator and multiply numerator and denominator by it. So 10 times radical 2 becomes 10 radical 2. And then radical 2 times radical 2 becomes radical 4. Well, what's the square root of 4? It's 2. One more step and we're done. We can simplify this fraction. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So if you said that the answer was 5 radical 2, that is the length of the legs of this 45, 45, 90 triangle. 5 radical 2, 5 radical 2. At this point, if you want to pause to review this, that would be a great idea. I'm going to move on to the next triangle, 30, 60, 90. So here we have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Again, what is that referring to? It's referring to the angles that are given to you. We just talked about one special right triangle. Here is the second. So we have similar relationships between the sides. Now I gave you a tip in class. And I hope that you remember what it is. If not, here it is. So write it in your notes. So the tip for this triangle is locate the smallest side first. Always locate the smallest side. And the smallest side is always opposite the smallest angle. Okay? So 30 degrees is your smallest angle, so the smallest side, we'll call it X, is here at the base. So again, first you want to locate the smallest side. Once I do that, all the other sides are based on that smallest side. Okay? So if this side is X, the side opposite the 60-degree side, the 60-degree angle, is the smallest side times radical 3. Again, the smallest side times radical 3 is how you would find the side opposite the 60-degree angle. The hypotenuse is even easier. The hypotenuse is always twice the smallest side. So what does that look like? Well, I can just write 2x as my formula in order to find the hypotenuse based on, again, the smallest side. Now we're looking for an example. So in this case, we have 3 different sides, so we should have 3 different examples. So the first example is this, which is simple. If you're given the smallest side, finding the other 2 is easy. So let's say you're given that x is 3. If you're given that x is 3, how do I find the other 2 sides? If you said plug it in, then you're absolutely right. You have x, just plug it in where you see x. So this side, I can replace the x now with 3. So 3 radical 3 is the length of the side opposite the 60-degree angle. And then 2 times 3, which is 6, is the length of the hypotenuse. Second example. If you're given, in this case, we'll try the side opposite the 60. So let's say you're given 8 as your side opposite the 60-degree angle. How do I find x and or the hypotenuse? You have a formula. 8 is equal to the smallest side times radical 3. Solve for x. Now don't forget, at this step, we need to rationalize. If you want to pause to practice that, you can do so now. I'm going to write down the answer as you know how to solve this at this point. So 8 over radical 3 becomes 8 radical 3 over 3. No decimals, please. You don't need a decimal. Leave it as a fraction. This is how you will see it on tests and quizzes as well. Last but not least, since we know what x is, we can double that to find the hypotenuse. So if I double this or multiply by 2, that would be 16 over 3 radical 3. So I'm able to find any side I want based on whatever's given to me because I know about the relationships of the sides in a 30, 60, 90 triangle. One more example, if you're given the hypotenuse. I am moving quickly, so make sure if you need to pause it, then please do that. Pause and come back. So if you're given the hypotenuse, let's say it's 10. So if the hypotenuse is 10 units long, then what should you look for first? Find x first. It's pretty easy, right? So the 10 is twice the smallest side. So 10 is equal to 2x. Divide by 2, x is 5. The side opposite the 60-degree angle is very easy now. All we have to do is plug it in. We know the relationship is the smaller side times radical 3. And that is my answer, 5 radical 3. I hope this was helpful, and make sure that you're using your notes and these videos as tools to help you get better at these concepts. If you have questions, make sure you ask me. We have a quiz on Friday. I'm looking forward to seeing all the good work and hard work you're doing.